are live. Oh my God, these Tuesdays are coming around so damn fast. I can't believe it.
I really do.
What's happening, Matt? Tell me about the weekend. I mean, I haven't got our opens, but I know you've had lots of activity. And tell me about it. Let's go.
The good thing is we're getting lots of inquiry. I think the frustrating thing from being a real estate agent right now is that, like, we're literally spending 4 or 5 hours at a house. And
wow.
For me, my job is just go in, out, around the other, in a car to another appointment. And it just slows the process down. And this whole no opens, it just from a time management point of view, it makes it really hard for us. But in saying that, though, it's been great because there is a bucket load of buyers out there, which is very satisfying because, you know, the whole, particularly Victoria, everyone at the moment, we're all fairly well locked down. So, yeah, we're going along really well. It'd be nice to be able to get them all in at once as we typically do, but there's offers coming in on properties. There's plenty of inspections. We spent hours at 8th Street yesterday, hours at Orimple Avenue yesterday, back there again today. And I think it's hard for buyers too because, you know, we've literally got 10 or 15 minutes and it's in one person in, one out. So it can be a bit hard for them. So we're finding that we're trying to get them back for second and third looks to make sure that they're getting a good look at a property so they can do their due diligence and make sure that they have it covered when they are ready to take the next step, and that's making an offer.
Great idea. Don't take that into consideration that, you know, you've only got a short period of time on your first one. So no, that's
great. It is hard. And, you know, you can imagine with an open inspection, normally you can get your builder, your brother, your sister, your mum, your dad, your in-laws. They can all come together. They can spend, you know, minimum half an hour there. Some people get there early and some people leave late, depending on, you know, our day on a Saturday. But at the moment, it's really limited to only 1 or 2 people, and so they're wanting to come back with their parents, and because we all want our parents' opinions, and that's important. So, but no, look, other than that, the market's still going really well. Just gearing up for spring, and we're just gearing up for some good stock to come on, which is great.
Fantastic. It's all a bit exciting. I can feel it. It's awesome. So today's session.
What about you? What about you first? How are you going? You're busy.
I'm busy. I'm so busy that I'm actually, it's really funny. I was just this massive juggling act of furniture going here, there and everywhere, and updating some stock because, you know, we have to update with what's going on and to look amazing. So yeah, I'm like, I mean, hardly anything's in storage anymore. I'm paying for an empty storage unit at the moment because it's just, you know, it's rotating. So it's been amazing. Yeah, really good, cool. Really good feedback as well.
That's great. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So now we're talking about the buyers. This is a bit of a session for our buyers. This is a good topic because I think we feel like everyone knows what we know, and we feel like, you know, there's people that have never bought before. I think this is going to be a really good session. We'll keep it brief, so keep you very, you know, keep you up to, you know, watching us all day, because I'm sure you don't want to be watching us all day. So where do people start and what to look for? And obviously it's the basics, like the area, the demographic. What do you want to just elaborate on that a little bit?
I think, look, you know, the great thing about real estate is you know, often people get to a certain age and they start to think, okay, well, maybe it's time. I've had a job for a few years. Maybe it's time I start looking for my own house and, you know, stop paying rent. And back to mum and dad. It's sometimes, you know, I see so many young couples going to opens and doing private inspections with their mum and dad, and it's great because it's the, you know, it's age-old dream to own your own home, right? And not only just to live under your own roof, but to work in your own garden and to whack a nail in wherever you want. And it's your home. And it's an investment, and it's an investment for your future, and it allows you to, in the future, take the next step. So I guess it's, you know, first of all, it's really about making that decision. Once someone then goes, all right, well, hang on, maybe I should buy a house. I've saved up some money. maybe I should start that process, whether it's build or buy or whatever they decide. The first decision is making the decision, isn't it? You've got to make that decision, and the decision is, all right, I'm going to start to think about securing something, and where do I start?
Yeah.
So I think knowledge is power with everything, right? We know that, and really starting to work out what's going to suit the buyer. If it's going down the path of building, going down that path of buying, how do we start? And I think the first step probably would be speak to your bank or your broker. I reckon that's probably one of the very initial conversations you have about, okay, well, one, can I afford to do this? Can I actually afford to get into the real estate market now? Is it something that I'm capable of? Because there's first homeowner grants out there, and there's stimulus package grants. We know all that, but can I afford it? Is it something that I'm going to be able to maintain a certain lifestyle I want to live? And we're going to cover this next week, because this week we're going to discuss brokering, but it's going to be next week with Matt Valerio from MFL. Really looking forward to having him on, and we can delve further into how you do that, and where you start, who do you call, all that sort of stuff. So, but I think that's probably one of the first things, because I do see a lot of people coming to open homes, and I always ask the question, how are you going? What are you looking for? What are you prepared to spend? Have you spoken to your bank or your broker? Yeah. And more often than not, some of the answers are no, we haven't done that. So it's like going shopping and not having any money. It's kind of weird. You're going and looking at stuff. I really truly believe you've got to do that and start looking at opens. But unless you know potentially what you can spend on a home, people are coming through open homes and they're even considering making offers, but they actually haven't gone down that path to say, all right, I think I can afford it. They might do a little online calculator, which I don't think is going to cover everything. I think you need to sit down and go through it properly with someone that you trust, that can go, okay, this is what you'd normally spend every month, etc., and start there.
Yeah, definitely. Because who wants to be disappointed? You fall in love with a property and it's just like, oh, can't, it falls through, or you just, it's just, you can't get there. That's disappointing. So when you've found the right property, you know what you're up for. What are the questions that you should ask your agent? I know for doing a little bit of research, it's like a lot of people, without asking the agents, they're researching themselves and looking at what the house had sold for previously, like say 3 years ago. Yeah. But they're not probably they probably should ask the agent, has there been any renovations done, any improvements, because that could be misleading. Those values could be misleading if you're not asking ask all about the property and, what's been done.
So there's so many, you can get so much stuff on the internet now. Like when I started real estate in whenever it was, 2002, God, that seems like that's a long time ago.
It's a bloody long time ago.
So you didn't have any of that. You had no history on the property. You didn't know when they lived it, when they bought it, if they had bought it 5 years ago or built the house. You didn't have any of that information until you actually went to the house and spoke to them. And so now there is so much information out there. There's algorithms that certain websites will give you on what properties are worth. Now they can be so far from the truth on what the property is worth, because they are just an algorithm. They are basically an algorithm on, all right, well, this street, they all sell for this amount. They do this calculation of some sort. I might look at a property that has an algorithm of 250,000, but it's actually worth 350. It can be so far out. So people read into too much about what the buyer paid for it 5 years ago, or, because different areas, increase at different amounts. So you take Orimple, for instance, the increase in the median value in Orimple is above and beyond any other town in the Sunraysia, including Mildura. So every property increases at different rates. A slight renovation can add so much value to a property if it's done right. A bad renovation can actually lose value, right? Or it can
Yeah.
be something that, you know, someone buys it 5 years ago and had no garden. They spend 5 years doing a garden. It can change so much. So yes, you can get information. You can get all that information from the internet, but you need to make your own mind up on price. And you need to do your homework on what you think things are worth. Most buyers, after they've been researching, once they know what they can spend, once buyers have been doing, you know, the open inspections and private inspections as we are at the moment, you know, they'll know after a few months what things are worth. And they'll have an idea of what things are worth to them. You know, I was talking to some buyers yesterday and they said, yeah, we saw a house on the market, another agency, and we think it was 50 grand more than what, you know, we thought it was worth. So everyone has an opinion. So it's about just making sure that buyers are really doing their homework on, you know, location, what services are available in that area, why the values might be higher or less in certain areas than others. You know, naturally people want to live down the river, so therefore your prices are higher. CBD prices are higher. So, you know, there's so many reasons why, you know, you need to do your homework on that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I guess it's probably not just about value and money. And I mean, you have to be really smart about your finances and your money, but it's also what's the property worth to you as well. Like, consider the value, the lifestyle. What's it worth to you and your family for the next 10 years to grow up in a beautiful area? You know, there's those things to consider as well. So once you
so can I use an example there?
I guess the other question. Yeah. Yep. Go for it.
Sorry. So I was just going to say, can I use an example where if you had a shed at your house, you wouldn't have to pay for storage?
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
That's a simple thing, right? People come to me and they say, I want to, so you could actually afford to probably, you know, spend money on a house with a good shed, right? Because then it would save that excess cost you have in your business, right? So there's all these little things that for some people, a house is worth more to them. The house that's got caravan access, that's got storage for both a caravan and a high clearance for a speedboat and a side area for the fishing boat and the trailer, is going to have more value to someone that has all those things than it does to someone that doesn't. So different. And that's why we range prices, because we say, if you're looking in that price range, you need to come and have a look, because it could be, you know, in that price range there somewhere or around it, it could be worth a certain amount to you, a different amount to the next. So there's no hard, fast rule on pricing and what a buyer's prepared to pay. It's always different.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Another thing to consider is, and asking your agent and doing your homework on, is making sure, like, if there's renovations done, have they been council approved, and are there any warranty, if there's any left, you know, how long have they got left? That's worth asking.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think this comes down to making sure what you buy has been done properly, and you know, and I think, you know, you can go down that path of making sure you've got a really good solicitor, a really good conveyancer that's ensuring that the paperwork that you sign has been done correctly. There's a fair bit to it. You know, sometimes you'll talk to someone when they're buying a house and to say, who's your conveyancer or who's your preferred solicitor? And they have absolutely no idea. And that's fair enough, because they've never done it before. But that person is there to protect the buyer, just as much as the vendor's got a solicitor to protect them and make sure that, you know, the contract's done correctly. So, you know, I guess making sure that if there's been any additions, etc., that they were done to standard and they have permits. And, you know, I guess that's to ensure that if the council find out a year after you bought it that the particular entertaining area wasn't done properly, they can come and rip it down. So there is a lot of those things. There is a lot of those things. You know, you want to make sure as a buyer that everything works. You know, you want to make sure that you're checking the appliances and making sure, because you don't want to get any surprises when you move in. Unfortunately, not all, and it seems to be that always something breaks down after you move in. It's just the way it is. It happened here at my house. You know, it's like a unwritten rule. It happens. But if you're going through the process, you need to ensure that you are knowing what you're buying. If you buy a car, you know that it's had a roadworthy, and you probably sometimes go and get a mechanic to check it, right? So you want to make sure that the property that you're trying to secure is not going to sort of give you any surprises the day you move in or a couple of days later.
Yep, exactly. Not a money pit situation. So the offer process, you found the property, you've walked in, you fall in love with it, you've got your brokers on board, or you've got your pre-approval. So
Yep.
what do they do? How does the offer process work? How long have people got?
Okay, so it all depends on what part of the sale we are at. So, and it depends obviously if it's an auction, it depends if it's just a standard private sale. So obviously auctions are you've got to be completely unconditional. They're probably another thing I think most people that are buying at auction probably have already bought a few properties before and probably know what they're doing. So, but as far as making offers, a lot of our offers we take are via an offer form. And they outline everything that you want to see in a contract. So they outline, whether you want to get a building permit, whether you want to get a termite inspection, whether you want a subject to finance clause or subject to whatever. You can put anything in there, whatever you want to see in a contract. Will you ask the buyer because, and settlement times, terms when you want to move into the house. So it's not all, we've discussed it before, it's not always about price to some vendors. A 30-day settlement might suit them better than a 120-day settlement. Buyers can have different clauses and different conditions that suit them. But the vendor is the one that typically holds the pen, right? They're going to accept your offer. So you want to make sure that you're sort of conforming to what they want, and I always tell buyers what the vendor will want as a settlement date. If it marries up, you're more likely to buy it. So, the offer process is, you submit an offer, we would take it to a vendor, and then we would then negotiate from there. Now, depending on whether we've got multiple buyers interested or if you're the only one, we would then negotiate with you as the buyer. If you are among many others, 2 or 3 or 4 other buyers, it might get to the point where it becomes a cutoff. So we would say, okay, you've got till Wednesday, 4 o'clock to get your best and final offer in. There is absolutely no coming back after this. You've got to put your best offer in. And everyone asks me, so what do I do? Like, where do I offer? And my answer every single time is, you go exactly where you're prepared to go to. You go to the dollar. And most people have a figure in mind. They have a number in mind that they're prepared to pay for a certain house because they've been doing the research. They've seen the one that sold up the road. They know it's better than that one there that was just sold 2 weeks ago because it's got this, and a shed, etc. So they will have a pretty good idea of what it's worth to them. And my advice to a buyer is, whatever if you're not prepared to go here, and if you find out you've missed out, and you're okay with it, then you need to just go to that amount that you're prepared to go to. If it's not to be, it's not to be. If you buy it, then you've done your very, very best, and that, well, you've bought the property and that's what you've wanted to. You've been doing this for months and months, and you wanted to secure a property, and you've finally done it. So, it's a case by case with every different house. But go with your gut. If you fall in love with a property, pay what you think it's worth to you, and what you are prepared to pay. It's simple as that.
That's very cool. So going back on the building and pest inspections, I know we've mentioned this weeks and weeks prior before, but for anyone that hasn't listened to our earlier sessions, so building and pest inspection in Victoria, what's the go with that? So is that something that the vendor or the buyer needs to organise?
Look, sometimes a vendor will provide a termite inspection, and it's up to them whether a buyer would take that as, okay, well, there's no termites. My opinion is, and always has been, is that you just get your own. I think most pest inspections are probably $250. And they're worth the money, because when I bought this house, I did that, and there was probably $30,000 worth of damage to this house in sort of a back part of the house, and I wasn't expecting it at all. And the vendors sadly, they weren't expecting it whatsoever, and were really shocked when it happened. It's a, there are a lot of termites in Mildura, and it's just an area where they can pop up anywhere, and they can get into your house, and they can be chewing away for months without you even knowing it. So it's $200 or whatever they are, $250 well spent, in my opinion. You would do that once. More than likely, you would do it once you've gone to contract. So, there's some agents out there say, no, I want you to do a pest and a building inspection before you buy it. And you would do that with an auction scenario. It's, by the time you're doing that, you're $700-800 down. You're not even guaranteed to buy the home. So we usually just throw those conditions in the contract. You've got a certain amount of time to get those inspections done. You can get a registered builder or a registered building inspector, or you can just get someone that you know and trust, a tradie that who'll come in and cast his eye over the house and make sure that there's no major structural issues. So it's not to come in and see that there's, that the door jams, sort of out of whack. It's structural issues that, could be a concern for you in the future. The termite guys come in and do their thing, and they will tell you whether there's activity in the house. And trust me, it's money well spent, and it can save people a lot of money, like it did us. Some people might walk away from a contract because of the termites. I was buying a family home. I was not going to not buy this house, so I was prepared to continue on with it because my heart was here big time. So. I was an emotional wreck when I bought this house, and I'm telling you, when you are invested in a home for whatever reason it is, it's an emotional roller coaster, and it can be really hard. And it's one of those things. I've sold a lot of property over the years, and this one to me was a situation where it was tormenting because I needed to buy it for the obvious reasons, and it was a roller coaster for me as a buyer as well. So I understand what it's like as a buyer. If you really want to buy, that's why I say to people, just buy it. If you want it, buy it. Just pay what you got to pay, and that's what I did.
And that's what I mean. The pest inspections, and don't be afraid of them. Like, there is probably maybe could be activity, but at least you get to know how much you need to spend to fix it, and everything's fixable. So don't be scared of that. I think there's a few people that go, if there's pests there, we can't buy it, but that's not the case.
No, I reckon 80% of houses in Mildura, probably not new ones, but existing older homes, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. I reckon 80% of the homes have probably at some point had damage. I renovated a house in Mildura, and we ripped off a huge big piece of plaster, and the old nest was monstrous. But it was just a matter of, fixing it. And old damage is one thing. You'll never know unless you're pulling walls off, right? So, the end of the day, you'll more often than probably 8 out of 10 find termites in a backyard, or in a tree stump or a fence post or a citrus tree. They are everywhere. And it's just a matter of buyers understanding that they're better out in the backyard than they are in the house. So just leave them out there. They love it.
Exactly.
They love the timber.
They love the timber. They love Sunraysia, that's for sure. So the contract stage, just getting back to that a little bit, for someone that hasn't bought before, what's the cutoff when they're getting all these things done and you've got things in place for the contract? What is the cutoff where there's no going back?
Okay, so most contracts these days are subject to finance, subject to pest, and subject to building usually. Not all, but usually. You've got 7 business days to do your pest and building. We encourage people to just get it done straight away, obviously, and usually that's what happens. Finance at the moment is typically standard 14-day clause. A lot of them are getting extended at the moment because of COVID. Banks are busy. They've got less staff. The processing time is taking a lot longer. We'll discuss this next week because, Matt's all over this sort of stuff. There are certain banks that are quicker. There's some are slower. It's just the way it is at the moment. Once you've ticked off the pest inspection, there's no live termites, there's no structural issues to the house, and then the finance sends through that. You pay a deposit sort of within a few business days of signing the contract. The vendor countersigns your signature on the contract. once the finance has been approved from the bank, you'll get a letter, a formal letter of approval from the bank saying, congratulations, your loan's been approved. Once we've received that, the solicitors received it, they exchange those letters between each other, it becomes an unconditional contract, right? So then that's when we put the sold sticker on. That's when we do that's when we do the champagne shower moment. So we might sell a house 3 or 4 weeks prior to that point. But it's got to go through that stage of going unconditional before we even pretend that it's sold, because a lot can change. So, you know, once you see this, anyone that's on Facebook and sees the champagne shower moment, that's when you know that it is an unconditional contract. It means that the buyer can't pull out. If they do, they forfeit their deposit. And otherwise it just proceeds to settlement. So you might have then another 2 or 3 weeks before, you know, you're ready to move in. I got one situation that only went unconditional last week and they're moving in next week. So they've got a house to pack up, move. It can all happen pretty quick. Or in other instances, you might have 3 months between that sold sticker and actual settlement date.
Yeah. I can imagine it's just very, it's probably the waiting for unconditional is probably the longest 2 or 3 weeks ever.
I've got 5 or 6 at the moment that we're pending and have been pending for the last few weeks. Some have gone into their 4th or 5th week. Some, I think, you know, I think one will go today. That's only been a week. So it can be a bit frustrating, particularly with the delays with the banks at the moment. But we've just got to grin and bear it. There's nothing else we can do. You sort of hanging in limbo a little bit. The vendors are sort of waiting, the buyers are waiting, hoping and praying that their finance is going to be fine. And it's such a relief for everybody once that happens. And, you know, it might seem like a really little thing to put a sold sticker on, but it's so much fun. Like, it's the best. Buyers love it, vendors love it. It's a relief. It's for them, it's getting to the next house, the next stage, the next chapter. The buyers have just bought their dream home. It's such a cool time. So yeah, it's good fun.
It's so much more than just a sticker.
It is.
Righty. Yeah. So we just went through settlement stage. So then it's all happening. The property is yours. You get to move in. That's a really cool. Like, it feels so basic, but we need to know these things because, you know, it is hard when you're overwhelmed with, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what to do, you don't know who your competition is, you don't, you know, am I going to get it? Is it going to fall through? Like, it's like high emotional stuff. And so I guess this is where you find your agent as a seller that can actually be amazing with negotiations, obviously, because working for both parties. But, you know, just that trust, that person of trust, so that, you know, everybody wins in the end. Yeah.
Look, I have plenty of buyers ring up and ask me for advice all the time, whether they're buying off me or buying off another agent. And, you know, that's what it's about. We're in an industry that we've got the ability to be doing it every day, and we're buying and selling real estate every day. You know, and there's some buyers that I've recently sold a house to, but I've been working with them for ages. They've missed out on heaps. And this is what happens. Sometimes it's the 5th or 6th or 7th attempt at buying a home. They've missed out. They soon learn what they've got to do to buy a house. And you know, so it's definitely, you know, for someone that's never done this before, just ask us, ring me, and I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to refer you to speak to the right people in the financial industry. You know, there's so much to consider. Going back to Zoom a couple of weeks ago with Justin, there's so much more to consider when you're buying real estate to set yourself up and secure your future. So, don't be afraid to ask, because it's, you know, that's what we're here for. That's what I'm here for anyway.
Yeah, well, you've got a duty of care, Mark. Like, and that's what's really amazing about you and your authenticity and you being so genuine. So, yeah, if you're out there and you want to get some advice from Mark, who knows, down the track, you know, Mark might be a man to sell that property again for you. To, you know, it's cool. It's amazing. It's good. It's fun. It's a great industry.
It is. Yeah, absolutely is. You know, it's, you know, at the moment it's one of those things, we can be sitting in a house for five hours, but it's, you know, it's great. Like, it is a good industry. I think the guys that are in it and love it for a reason, because, you know, and I think having been in, for people that don't know, I was in it for 9 years. I started a business and got out of it, But I always found that the people during that time where I wasn't in real estate, the people that I'd stop and talk to up the street, and you stand there at length and have a 10, 15-minute conversation with them, are the ones that I'd met in real estate, or you get to know people so well, and you almost become one of the family in a weird way. And it's and it's a very emotional time for a lot of people, particularly vendors, I think more so. But as for buyers as well. So we're lucky. I find myself lucky that I'm, in this industry, and and obviously same with you. I'm sure you pinch yourself. You get to go in there and just pizzazz the world out of houses. It's cool.
Oh, it's just the end when they're so elated, they're so happy. That's what fills my cup. So, it's hard to explain. It's like you get to do the soul sticker, I get the hug at the end. It's like It's very cool. It's just the best feeling ever. Yeah. So let's wrap it up. I don't think we have any questions today. If you have any questions you think of later, or you're watching the replay, you can also comment and we can get back to you. But otherwise, you can give Mark a call. You can give me a call if you want to, looking at staging. And next week, as Mark said, we're going to be talking to Matt Valerio from as a broker to answer all those questions about those sorts of, it is a bit, I guess, a bit confusing with finance, who to go to, what to do. So this would be a great session just to give you a bit of an outline of what's happening and what path you can take.
Yeah, and it's not just for first home buyers either. It's like for anyone that wants to renovate and to get to that understanding of how to draw equity out of your home. At the moment there's some banks doing some really good deals. So Matt's he's been in the industry a long time, worked at the Bendigo Bank for years and years and years, and he's excellent at what he does, and he's very good with clients. So no, I think you'll get a bit out of next week for sure.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to meeting him. All right. As there's no questions, let's hit the road, Jack, and we'll see you all next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Thanks, Mark.
Go the Bombers.
Yeah, oh, really? Yeah.
No, not at the moment.
See ya.